Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your life savings, everything you've ever worked for, can't even buy you a loaf of bread. In 2009, Zimbabwe's currency completely collapsed under the weight of mind-blowing hyperinflation. People literally needed wheelbarrows full of cash to buy basic goods. The Zimbabwe dollar was eventually abandoned, and the country turned to the US dollar and South African rand, hoping that this would be the end of their nightmare. But just one decade later, Zimbabwe brought back the currency that almost ended its economy. The Zimbabwe dollar returned to the streets, and in the blink of an eye, history began to repeat itself. Before we dive deeper into the video, if this is the type of content you'd like more of, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. In 2019, the Zimbabwe government, under increasing pressure to reassert national pride and control over its economy, made a bold move and reintroduced the Zimbabwe dollar once more. The hope was simple: restore confidence, bring back a sense of stability, and move away from the reliance on foreign currencies. But the decision was controversial. Experts warned that reintroducing a currency with such a volatile history would be like tempting fate. And yet, the government pushed forward, insisting that the country needed its own currency to regain economic sovereignty. And then, as if on cue, the ghost of hyperinflation returned. Just months after the reintroduction of the Zimbabwe dollar, inflation surged back to record levels. Prices shot up, and the local currency began losing value at an alarming rate. For the everyday citizen, it felt all too familiar. The same challenges from the past were now present in the here and now. Skyrocketing prices, shrinking purchasing power, and a desperate search for stability. Once again, the United States dollar and the South African rand became the unofficial currencies of choice. The Zimbabwe dollar, though official, was relegated to the shadows, with people increasingly relying on foreign cash to survive. The cycle had begun again. For ordinary Zimbabweans, this wasn't just about numbers on a chart, this was about survival. People were forced to juggle multiple currencies just to pay for basic necessities. The cost of living skyrocketed and wages remained stagnant. Unable to keep up with runaway inflation, markets became battlegrounds where the value of money was ever-changing, and the emotional toll was immense. For a generation that had seen their savings wiped out the first time around, the return of the Zimbabwe dollar felt like a cruel joke. Many wondered if the government was simply too proud or too stubborn to admit that they couldn't escape their own economic history. Behind the scenes, Zimbabwe's government faced intense pressure to stabilize the economy. A combination of economic mismanagement, international sanctions, and the challenge of regaining trust in the local currency all compounded their struggle. Measures like currency peg attempts, interest rate hikes, and the restrictions on foreign currencies use were implemented, but to little effect. As inflation continued to rise, the public began to wonder, could the Zimbabwe dollar ever work, or had they simply reopened Pandora's box? So what's next for Zimbabwe? Are they doomed to repeat the same cycle of boom and bust? Or is there still hope for the Zimbabwe dollar? The truth is, the future remains uncertain. Some experts believe that with the right economic reforms, Zimbabwe could stabilize. Others argue that as long as inflation continues to outpace growth, the country might never truly escape the shadows of its past. But one thing is certain, the resilience of Zimbabwe's people is unmatched. Despite the turmoil, a new generation is emerging, hoping to build a better future. The question is, will the Zimbabwe dollar survive the test of time, or will it be just another chapter in the country's turbulent financial history? If you like this and want to see the video that started all, check out how $1 trillion became worthless by clicking on the screen.